Hi everybody, my name is Alan. On behalf of the crew, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. You know, when we were in the process of setting up for the show, one of the bridging crew is this master didgeridoo player. And he started playing it just to, get us in the mode of being ready for the show and to transition us from, there are a lot of people here and they're eating and talking and being together and having fun and to get ready to do the show and be reasonably quiet and to be focused on, on doing the show and getting a beautiful energy out to the world. And I realized there's something about the didgeridoo that's very primordial, it hits us in a really deep, spiritual, connected level when it's played by somebody whose intention is to come from there and has the skill and the passion to do that. And I realized, in this life, what is the primordial experience of us as human beings? What is that root? What is that heart that we come into these human bodies for? And all of us, every one of us, in our heart of hearts, in the middle of the night, somewhere at the ocean, at the beach, when we're in love, have a sense of something grand, something majestic, something infinite, something inclusive, something so full of love that we could almost call it in a human body unconditional love. Something that we've heard tell is something about a oneness, a connection to the truth that we all share. And what is that root? And what is our destiny with that root, with that heart, with that center of our being of this planet, of the being of the universe? It's to come into connection with that. It's to come into a realization that is in fact what we are, that we are the oneness, that we are included, that we are infinite, that we are vast, that the Father and I, the Goddess and I are one. That is why we're here, that is why we've come together, that is why people are watching this show, and that's why the enormous amount of energy goes into making this show possible and making it available all over the world. And there are so many light workers and light beings and artists and musicians whose life is dedicated to bringing that healing home, to bringing us home into the heart of love, and to bringing us home into the heart of oneness. And now is the time for that. And now is overdue time for us to come together joyously and lovingly, creatively, collectively, collaboratively, and serving the love together, serving the healing of the heart together, serving the reconnection, serving the unconditional love, serving our roots, serving our heart together. And only then can that which look like the symptoms or are the symptoms of that disconnection, of that broken heart, that disconnected heart, can only they be healed then. Until we heal the root, we can't heal the leaves. So, together, it's our opportunity. Together we can. It's together we can commit and reconnect and rededicate. That is our intention, to serve the love together, collectively, collaboratively, creatively. And we will bring a heaven on earth. We will bring a planet that is centered in love, that is centered in joy, that is centered in our recognition of our oneness. And tonight's guest, not a surprise, because that's all the guests are bridging, more or less, in one spoke on the wheel or another. That's what their lives are dedicated to. Selacia, she's an international known writer, she's an intuitive healer, and she's been the guide to literally millions of others on the path of spiritual awakening, on the path of spiritual healing, on a healing of the heart. She's the author of an extraordinary new book, Your Guide to Earth's Pivotal Years, A Direct Path to Enlightened Living. She's a former professional journalist who covered the White House and Congress. And somewhere along the line, she recognized that she came into this human body to unrelentingly, day after day, minute after minute, serve that love, to feel that love and to share that love and to feel that love and to share that love. And she does it in numerous ways, on numerous platforms, with that intense desire to heal the heart of this seeming disconnection. And that is what her life is dedicated to, to reconnection of that hunger, that spirit, that loving, that oneness. And it's a great honor to have her with us tonight. And Selacia and I go back a long way, because when we started the show a while ago, she was coming up with one of our beautiful guests who did 2 shows early on, Rana Herman. And Selacia, and we were looking for an opportunity for Selacia to come on, and we couldn't work out the dates. And then just literally not too long ago, it just exploded that now is the time to do it. And I think the way it's going to work out, that this show you'll see, and then we're going to do another show right after this with Selacia, so you'll see 2 shows in a row. So when you see this show, if you want to see more of her, go to the next one. I think this will be number 282 for Bridging, and 283 will be another show with her. So it's a great honor, and there's so much information and so much healing energy and healing vibration that she has to impart to us and for us and with us. And as most of you know, we usually show, music videos or art videos to bring in that love and to bring in that connection, to bring in that healing and loving energy in another format. And we have 2 beautiful videos from another old friend of Bridging, Iasos, who's an incredible musician and artist. And we have 2 videos of his tonight. And then, as most of you know, we're in the middle of an international healing art project that came as a vision, that came as a dream, as an acupuncture, as a healing of the heart of the planet, that we would use this Bridging format, this Bridging distribution system that literally goes out all over the world, on cable stations, on Sky Channel TV in Europe, all over Europe, on YouTube, on Vimeo. All the shows are on. Every one of them is on in high resolution, available 24/7 all over the world. What a gift and what a blessing. And so we reached out and said, anybody who wants to produce a new original piece based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth, get it to us here in California. We'll put it on the show. We'll have art exhibits. We'll have separate art project shows every season where we only show art and read the text and the poetry of the artist. And we've received literally 350 pieces from all over the world, all sizes, all formats, all skill levels. Everyone is welcome. The project is infinite, and the project is inclusive. And really, if you want to be inspired, if you want to be enlightened, if you want to have a really beautiful experience, go to Heaven to Earth Art, heaventoearth.com, and go to this website and just go page after page after page of unbelievable, already manifested. And you will see on the artist page a list of probably 1,000 people. 350 have already done a piece, and about 500 to 600 have promised to do a piece or intend to do a piece, and there is no piece manifested yet. And each time that a person commits, each time a person intends to do that with that energy and then manifests it, think of the energy. Think of their energy. Think of the energy going into the planet. Think of the energy vibrating off them. And then when it gets here, we show it on the shows, and tonight we have 2 extraordinary pieces. These are both from the United States, although we've received pieces from literally every country. And if you go to the website, you'll see that. Tonight we have 2 pieces, Joy Hairhold and Richard Moran. 2 beautiful pieces, all new original pieces based on the theme Bridging Heaven and Earth. So join me in a short meditation, then we'll have a Iasos video, and then Selacia will be with us to just share her gift and her love and her dedication and her magic, really. So join me in a short meditation. Thank you. So let me read you this piece about Joy Herhold, Inspired Community. It's a mixed media monoprint from Prescott, Arizona, USA. Her website is a-joy.net. So this is what Joy says about this piece, Inspired Community. This art is driven by a great desire to contribute to a healthy, fun, and dynamic world. Inspired Community is a composed and collage monoprint that explores whimsical and deep messages. It is an original that shares creative energy with the viewers. Often I utilize machine sewing into the work as seen in this piece. The sewing machine as an art tool is a glorious way to use it. The work is framed and museum glass is used so that the textures and colors can be seen without glare. Joy Herhold, Inspired Community. So the first video we're going to see tonight is Iasos, Spring Temple Forest. Spring Temple Forest, Iasos. Enjoy. Hi everybody, welcome back. So Iasos, Spring Temple Forest. Thank you Iasos for letting us have that. And you'll see another beautiful Iasos piece a little later on. And again, the beautiful piece you're seeing in between Selacia and I is Joy Herhold Inspired Community. Joy has done 5 different pieces for the art project, each one different, each one unbelievably powerful. Go to the website, the Healing Art website, heaventoearthart.com. Look up Joy Herhold on the artist page alphabetically under J for Joy. And you'll see 5 unbelievable pieces. And then if you keep going and you keep looking, and you'll see other pieces literally from all over the world. And everyone is welcome to join us. The more people involved, the better the healing. So please join us, and everyone's welcome to. So we're honored to be here with Selacia after all these years. Now you're on the set. That's great.
It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, it's great. So at the opening, I talked a little about that you had, an incredible career as a journalist, and we're at the White House and Congress, and now you're an incredible spiritual teacher and healer. Was that transition for you? Was it quick? Was it slow? How did it work in your life?
Yes, the transition really was over periods of time in my life, and what led me naturally into journalism is also what led me into what I do now. And I'll give you a little bit of an example. In my early life, I came in very intuitive and asking lots of questions, very curious, like most children. And I wanted to know a bigger picture sense of what I was being presented. It seemed like there was more to the picture, much more. And I wanted more. And I saw a lot of dysfunction all around me, including in my own home. And so that led me to eventually going into journalism, because I was very good at asking questions and asking the deeper questions, and also being in sync with the timing of when to ask them. And I didn't realize it, but from a very early age, I was very intuitive. In fact, I quite often would know what was going to happen next. I would know the future. And I'll give you one example of the kinds of things that would happen in my early life. I would go to my mother and I would have a project for school. And she would say, well, I will go to the store this afternoon and get you whatever you need for this project. And I could tell as soon as she said that, she was not going to the store. I would not have my materials, and I would need to finish it on my own without that. So it was from a very early age. I was very intuitive and knew these things. And it was actually quite a help knowing. And so from journalism then, it was ever expanding into wanting to understand the world in a bigger way. And as I was in journalism, it was very mainstream, very conventional, and the kinds of ideas I was interested in exploring were much larger than what they were interested in presenting. If you understand how the typical media is,
right,
it's pretty gloom and doom as well.
Right.
And that has never been my perspective.
And government and politics and things like that.
But it was all part of my training.
Right.
There is nothing wasted. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tell people. That everything that you've done up until now is a part of your path. So there's no wasted moments. And so this moment right now is the most important.
Right.
It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah, it's really lovely, really lovely. And so, as you were moving into like a grander picture, a grander experience, a grander knowing, what steps were you taking in your life?
I was doing a number of things. I was, first of all, observing the world and asking lots of questions, and that began even in journalism. And as I learned about people and about countries and governments, because what I covered was politics, macroeconomics, many of the things we are talking about today that are happening on the planet. And I was covering those things, and I was learning about the human condition. And I was also learning about myself. And I was seeing the dysfunction. I was seeing that the dysfunction actually that existed was vast. And I was realizing, even as a very young person, when I was in journalism, that there were many problems, even beyond what they were having us cover. Because, again, the typical newspaper was covering only the gloom and doom portion, not really the larger picture. So I was seeing these things, and I was getting a preview of coming attractions, a preview of these times and what would be needed. And over time, my own intuitive guidance guided me to different kinds of trainings, meditation, different kinds of teachings. And I would also, at the same time, be given teachings direct from Spirit. And that's happened my whole life.
Wow. And so when did writing this book about these times and helping, people get through these chaotic, in a sense, and difficult times, when did that become a real thing for you when you really started to make that a reality?
That book I really began a number of years ago putting together the concepts for it and gathering the ideas for it. The actual writing and editing, if you've done books, you understand that's a process sometimes. That took about 3 years. And in that process, as things were refined, there was even more going on in our world and more to add in there as I was finishing it. And so that's how it came about.
And so why don't you take people through like the major themes of the book, and then maybe in the second section we talk about, the best ways for us to deal with all these things that are happening to us and around us, seemingly, and that, what is the best approach to take to really experience that inner connection?
Yes, so first of all, one of the things that I point out in the book is that we are in a very unique time. There's been nothing like it. It's a time of very massive change. It's a time where all of the structures in our society, from the top down, are being reconfigured. And that's everything from government, religion, education, everything. And the reason that is happening is because for a very long time, our society has been functioning on an old paradigm based on fear, based on lack. And that is not the truth. That is not how we are meant to live. So in my book, I go into that overall picture, the overall situation, and how we got to where we are, and some of the historical background, and then also a big picture view of what's needed to move forward. And so those are some of the themes. I go into the great paradigm shift. I go into the need for really shifting how we relate to one another and how we relate to ourselves. Our whole idea of career, our whole idea of coming together in communities. These things are being evaluated because the old is no longer working. And we are really at a tipping point where different decisions must be made in order for us to continue. And one of the things that's so unique about this particular time is that we are the first generation right now to be aware of what is happening as it's happening, to be aware of the deep nature of our challenge, to be conscious of it, and to realize that we are the ones needing to make the changes. And that is what is going to make the difference. So it's quite a project.
Yeah. But I mean, I think, and I talk about that a lot, that's why we're here. That there are a lot of people who really have, more and more of that recognition and really want to be of service to that transition, to that new paradigm, to build those new paradigms. Why don't you speak to that?
The new paradigm in the making is something that each of us is a part of creating. We are each in our own way a part of the whole picture. It is not something outside of us, and that's the other big difference. There's a lot of ideas in mainstream thinking that say, well, someone else fix that. It is really up to us. And so the best way to think of it is start within yourself, within your own life, within your own family. Not waiting for someone outside, not waiting for government to do it. And to realize that we have options. There's no predestiny here. There's no automatic end of the world at a certain date. We have the option of what we create next. And so it is to be really present and awake in each moment. And to find a way to bring lightness of being, find a way to bring joy into everyday things. And also it is being really mindful of our thoughts, our feelings, our interactions with one another. These things do matter. And they matter more than the external things. What really matters is how we are with one another. It's changing that. And it's up to each one of us to do it. And in fact, we are encoded to do it.
Okay, well, then let's talk a little about if we're encoded to do it, how did we get away from it just a little bit, and how can we get back to that encode and to line ourselves up with it so, you know, the encode and I are one. Okay, so how did we, being encoded, slide away from?
First of all, the encodements come from deep within us. And there are layers of dysfunction over that. And that has to do with hundreds and hundreds of years of conditioning through all the generations. So whether or not you believe in past lives, you have ancestors. And the ancestors go way back. And so over hundreds and hundreds of years, we have been conditioned through fear. Every institution in our society, whether it's religion, politics, business, all of them have been conditioned in that way. And so we have learned to see ourselves as separate. We have learned to compete. We have learned to fear. Instead of realizing that we are all one. We are all here together on one planet. And quite often I will say jokingly to people, if we were really meant to be alone somewhere, we would each have our own planet. But we are here together on Earth.
Yeah, beautiful. And so, I guess, I know that's a big part of your book. How do we start getting back to that? What can we do if we feel isolated, we feel separate, we don't feel what a lot of people talk about, or I talked about the opening, you've mentioned that oneness, that connectedness, that healed heart. How do we reconnect? How do we heal up? How do we individually, and then as a species, as each of us individually do it, how do we come back into that recognition, that realization?
Yes, how we do it, there are a number of ways. First of all, realizing how precious this life is and that each day is important. Each interaction is important. So in other words, instead of going with the conditioning that teaches us to drive around and go places and run into people and think of them as someone separate from us and someone we don't know, is looking around and looking for the connection that indeed we share, looking for the similarities, looking for places where we can help, looking for ways we can connect. And also finding more of a sense of community by putting ourselves in situations where we can connect with others instead of being so isolated. It really does take some effort to put yourself in a place where you will be connecting with either strangers, perhaps they're people you know, but connecting in a more heart-centered way, where you're really listening, and you really are coming from compassion, and really hearing the other person. Those are among the ways that we can do this.
And when you do sessions, when you do healing sessions with individuals, we'll talk about that more in the next, but why don't you give people like a preview, and then we'll show the Iasos video of how you explore these issues with people and how, that healing begins to take place.
All right, so let's say a person comes to me because they are disconnected from their own power, which is quite common on the planet. When we are disconnected from our own power, there will be all kinds of relationship issues, all kinds of power issues, career issues. And I'll give you an example, a case in point. A person came to me some time ago who works for the studios in Hollywood. And he was having all kinds of power issues with his boss. If you can only imagine in Hollywood, those kinds of things.
Must be lovely.
Yes.
It was a lovely
Very
interaction,
lovely.
I'm sure.
And so that's quite often, that's an example of someone coming to me for something that on the surface it sounds like it's about the boss.
Right.
Indeed, it's not really about the boss. It's about inside each one of us. And in his case, he had a very old wound, which he did not share with me for a number of months. We did a number of healing sessions. And after about 6 months, he told me one day that when he was very young, his mother abandoned him.
Wow.
And he never had heard from her since. In fact, he was so angry, he did not want to know where she was, and he had stopped looking for her. And I asked him, well, would you like to do some healing on that? And he was open to it, so we did some sessions on it. And one day I was very excited. He called me from the studio in the middle of the day, and he said, Selacia, you won't believe this. My mother found me and called me, and we're having lunch next week.
Wow.
So that was as a result of the healing.
Wow.
We were really working on him,
right, so
not on his mother.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
All right, so we'll get more into these issues. Great. Okay, so the second video we're going to see, again, Iasos, tremendously gifted and dedicated to the love, musician and artist and healer. The Fountain of Creation. And this is from Iasos' DVD, Realms of Light. Both of the pieces you've seen are. And that's in his DVD, To Explore the Worlds of Heavenly Love, Light, and Beauty. Beautiful DVD, a lot of beautiful pieces. We've picked 2 out. We'll probably show some more later on. But it's Iasos, The Fountain of Creation. Enjoy. Hi everybody, welcome back. So beautiful videos. Iasos, the Fountain of Creation, from his amazing DVD, Realms of Light. So thank you, Iasos, again. And the extraordinary piece of art you're seeing in between Selacia and I is by Richard Moran. He's from Talent, Oregon. It's an acrylic on canvas, and it's called Bridging Love, Child, and Bird. Bridging Love, Child, and Bird. And here's what Richard says about his piece, Bridging Love, Child, and Bird. My painting's message is that the heart and the mind must be willing to communicate. The heart of the bird is next to the heart of the child. The child is listening to the heart of the bird. So that whole circularity and beauty, and just look at the colors of that. It's just so many pieces, so many different styles, glass, acrylics, oils, collages, sculptures, jewelry. Anybody who wants to participate, please join us. The more people involved, the better the healing, the more we can heal the heart and come together. So, healing the heart and coming together. Now we have Lacey again. So why don't you talk about, your sessions and the healings and the, all that process for you, and how, it just all works together to really, like enliven the energy and be part of that healing.
Yes, the sessions I do really are at a DNA level, which is helping people to connect, first of all, with what is in them that is really the dysfunction that's preventing their wholeness. And so it can be about many different things. And so the sessions, what happens is when I'm working with someone, like, for example, right now, if I was working with you, a whole energy field would open up around your DNA. And I would see, like in Akashic Records, the information that is in there about whatever that topic was. And it's like a movie plays, and I'm able to see what's going on, what the root of it is. And quite often these things go back a very long time. They can go back to your early life. It can go back to another lifetime. It can be in the lineage, in your family somewhere. So, and once we're able to isolate what it is, then we can go clear it there. And one of the things about the DNA work that I find so amazing is that it's one of the tools helping us to greatly accelerate our transformation, to greatly accelerate our enlightenment, because it allows us to go, first of all, to the root of what's causing the suffering, and then to clear things that otherwise could take lifetimes to clear. So it's very amazing.
And so you would be with somebody, and then would they normally say that I have an issue around this, or would they just come to you and say, I'm just not happy, I'm just not feeling fulfilled, I don't feel like what I'm doing is service, I don't feel connected? I mean, what is the way most people approach you, or is there no way?
It's as different as there are people.
Right.
But I'll give you a couple of examples.
Okay.
One example, actually recently, was with one of my clients who was about to give birth to a baby boy. And she had some pending mother jitters, which I'm sure most women have before the baby's born, and wanted to do a check-in session on a physical level and other levels ahead of the birth. And so, as a part of the session, one of the things she mentioned to me was that she and her husband were conflicted about the baby's name. They had 3 different names in mind, and they weren't really sure what the best name was. So what happened was, amazingly, as part of our session, is I simply went in and telepathically talked to the baby. That baby inside of her, and the baby told me and told us what his name was, what it meant, and what his purpose is to be in the world. And he said his name is Lucas. And he told us many things about himself. And
was that one of the 3 that they had thought about?
Yes.
Oh, it was one.
It was one of the names.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So they had
some
picked
intuition.
up on that. Yes.
Right, okay. Good.
But they weren't really sure.
Right.
And they certainly did not know why they picked the name and what it meant, or about his mission. And
so, explain that a little more. So when he told you that, I mean, he said that he knew in the womb, before birth, what his name was going to be or should be, in a sense, on this planet, and what his destiny and mission was. So, I mean, could you describe that? I mean...
What happened was on a telepathic level, which is really how we know how to naturally communicate, separate from words like you and I are speaking right now. We all have that ability. And in my sessions, I will quite often get information telepathically. So in this case, it was from the baby inside of my client.
And he
was communicating to me these things.
Like, and specifically, what did he say? That my mission is to...
He communicated his name, and he said what it meant was bearer of the light, and that he would be bringing light to the world. And he said a few other things, but that was the gist of it. And as I told that to my client, it made total sense, and she felt a whole energy open up inside of her.
That can make having the baby a lot easier, I would suspect.
Yes, yes.
Wow. And is that baby born now?
Yes, that baby has been born. And that is his name.
Wow. And so you were going to give a few other examples of how that process works?
Yes, so that is one example. And other examples are, say someone comes and they're conflicted about what kind of work they're to do. And perhaps they're in a job where they're not feeling either appreciated or they're feeling like it's really not part of what their service is. And so a part of what we look at is not only what is causing the dissatisfaction inside the person, it is more than the external job. So we're looking at that because whatever we carry inside of us, if we left that job, we would take it to the next one.
Wherever we go, there you are.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So what I would be pinpointing then again in the DNA work would be any kind of pattern in that person that has to do either with success or them enjoying their work. There could be many different things. And sometimes it's even down to the particular dynamics of the work environment. There could be a certain person there that is like a catalyst and that reminds them of something that is really from the past. It's not really in the present. And so once we go and clear that, then they're more neutral about it. And they can simply be there then as long as they need to be there.
And discuss the clearing process. How would that work with
the clearing process is being able, first of all, what I do is I'm able to see in the field where the beliefs are, the specific patterns, and I go clear them there in the field. And so whether it's on...
So the person is just, their role in that is to be open?
Yes, it's an energetic process. It's very much, it's a dialogue back and forth between us. So there's actually three elements. There is the client, there's myself, and there's spirit. This is a spiritual form of healing. It's an energy. Mm-hmm. And so it's an energy clearing, really, that takes place. And I see the energy leaving. Quite often the person will tell me they feel something. They might feel something in a certain part of their body. They might have a new awareness of something. And it's not usually just one thing. It will be connected to a number of things.
And seemingly humans have maybe a tendency or a process that when things get cleared, if we involve ourselves in similar behaviors, similar... I mean, so when we do this clearing, or in your case, you do this clearing, are there activities or techniques to keep it clear?
Yes, one of the things I recommend is that people, after a clearing like that, become mindful of what we worked on, and become...
Is there a tape of it so that they can
Yes.
listen? So there is a tape.
Right, I do a recording. Yes.
Recording, okay.
And so become mindful of what we worked on and the related pieces. So if there's anything else besides that, then we can very easily pinpoint that later. And so as they realize what we worked on, then they remind themselves, because there can be a tendency in the very beginning to go back to how you looked at the person before, or yes, right. We're very habitual beings. So So it's a way to really not only pinpoint and clear things, but for the person then to really be responsible for their own healing going forward by knowing what it was that we worked on, what it was related to, and then knowing the connecting pieces.
And in these healings, I mean, so I guess the goal, in a certain sense, if we could use that word, is to really do a complete healing and really be clean and really be available to be in every moment and not have, past or future. So, I mean, depending on the state of the being, how long that process would take or their openness, how would that work?
It's very individual, but what I would say is that this kind of healing where we're able to go back in the DNA and go to the root of what it's about, that is the only way to really have true, lasting healing, because you're going to the root and then you're bringing it forward. So, depending on if there are related pieces to it, it's really very individual. Mm-hmm. And it's also up to each person then what they do with the energy in their life. So it's a joint effort, really. It isn't simply someone doing something for you. It is your participating.
And in your process, are there things, throughout history and, healing techniques, there's been things like meditation, there's things like certain books of prayer. How do they line up with, that kind of cleaning and cleansing and healing that you're involved in?
Yes, I do recommend things like that in tandem with the healings. I recommend people become mindful of their thoughts, perhaps have a little journal, write things down, have some quiet time every day, if not formal meditation, sometimes to really still the mind and go within and make a regular connection with spirit. That is really important. And my goal is to help people connect with their own inner wisdom.
It'd be better if they didn't have to go to your office to
right,
get it ready.
Right.
It makes it a little more.
But regardless, even if they are working with me, it really speeds the process to have them involved in their own
the rest
change.
of the time.
Right. Exactly.
It would seem to. And are you finding in you've been doing this for a while now, more and more people wanting that, to feel service, wanting that feeling of connection, knowing that there's something dysfunctional in them and the society as a whole and the way the institutions are?
Yes, more and more people are not only wanting that, but they are feeling on the edge of a certain issue or perhaps a number of issues. And they're at a kind of crossroads. And they're not really sure how to get to the other side of it. And that's typically the time when people find me. And this is people at all different levels. There are people at more beginning levels, people at advanced levels. And it will be whenever they reach kind of the next threshold.
And the thresholds are getting reached faster and faster.
They are.
Now, so.
Everything is accelerated right now, yes, for all of us. And that's the other thing I really suggest to people is to become more mindful not only of your own process, but of those around you, and to realize that everyone you meet, everyone you're interacting with, is also going through massive changes. And to allow for that.
Yeah, we were talking, I guess, at the break that, flexibility is really important. Why don't you talk to that a little bit?
Flexibility is really important because things are changing really quickly. What you planned on in the morning may not happen. Or it might look different when it appears. So it's not being in a rigid construct. And that takes a brand new thinking, a brand new approach, much more flexibility, much more patience, and much more taking a moment before you respond, taking a moment before you decide, oh, well, this isn't happening. It could still be happening, but perhaps it looks different. So it's being more open. And that's what we're all being invited to do. And these times are really stirring that up in us, are they not?
Sure looks like it to me, I must say. And we have about, maybe a minute left in 30 seconds. What would you want people to take away from, the amazing gifts and blessings you've been given in your life and you would like to share with them?
I want people to know, first of all, that this is the most unusual and unique time you could possibly be on the planet. you have the most opportunities for enlightenment, for spiritual transformation, and for connecting with the love that you have been seeking your whole life. And you're not alone. You have people all around you that care, and you have spirit. And it is up to you then at this moment to say yes, and to accept your role, which is as a divine changemaker. That is who you are.
That's beautiful, a divine change maker. Yeah, I know you talk about that a lot. I really love it when you say that, and each one of us has the potential to really clearly make a difference, because it's all about energy. So as we change one little bit of energy. So amazing, really, an amazing show. And really, look at this show. It's going to be Bridging Heaven and Earth show number 282. There'll be a 283, and Selacia will be here with us again to talk about a lot of different things. So real opportunity. Good night. We love you. God bless you. 805-687-2053. Call anytime. God bless you.